I feel like for a lot of, let's say, these earlier wave light workers that are out there helping to create stable during what might be coming the Great Awakening, you know,
Yep.
they're all sort of, let's say, really starting to come online together. You know, we're finding one another, creating this, let's call it the ground crew, as we connect stronger and stronger to the sky crew to fulfill this mission of helping to usher the earth into that new age.
The new frequency.
Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt.
Amazing. So let's talk about it. How did this idea, this creation come to fruition?
There's new discoveries, isn't there? There's things like that as well. I saw that great chat you had with Billy Carson sort of more recently where, you know, you were teaching me things about Australia. I didn't know that there was that pattern on the ground, very much like the Nazca lines. Oh,
yeah, the Mari Man. The Mari Man was actually discovered in 1998, but I think people don't understand what it actually is. And it's almost got like a Mandela effect aspect to it too, because it didn't exist on satellite photographs before, but now it does. And which is kind of very interesting too. So it makes you question, was this a hoax? What was this? But beyond even the hoax, actually the symbology of it doesn't look indigenous at all to Australia. It looks like Orion. He's carrying a club, right? It's the same symbology of Orion and the same shape and everything again. And so, you know, part of the reason why we are going to Egypt as a group is because I have, over the last 5 years, I felt like it was a calling to create a new paradigm in social media and a new paradigm that would be all about freeing our voices. And it was going to be timed with the global opening and activation of the throat chakra. So the whole thing was about freeing your voice. And you may have seen, I've done podcasts before talking about this idea of there being 3 layers of the throat chakra. There's self-aware, self-actualize, and self-transcend. And self-transcend is when magic comes into the land. And what we are going to be doing there as well is really activating that last segment of the throat chakra. And one of the things that, you know, we have been working on for the last 5 years is to create a quantum secure encryption layer that could be used to protect everybody. And that Orion would be the platform to do that. We named it Orion. I didn't even know. It was one of my team members who said, we should call it Orion. I was like, oh, okay. That sounds kind of cool. I didn't even think of it in terms of its implications for Egypt and all the other work that I've been doing. I literally didn't. And I thought, okay, well, that sounds kind of cool. Yeah, that sounds like an angle. Why not? You know, type of thing. And on my last trip to Egypt, which I just got back from 2 weeks ago, I discovered that the Nile, the entire Nile, a lot of people had already posited that the Nile was a representation of a kundalini, right? Like a spinal column. And where it goes into a sort of the Nile Delta, which has these 7 tributaries coming off of it, is actually looks a lot like the symbology that you have of a Kundalini awakening and the spinal column leading to the crown chakra, right? And this 1,000-petaled lotus flower, which, you know, also has the 7 colors of the rainbow in it. And so I had been, you know, in Egypt, and I was in the southern part of the Nile, which is close to Abu Simbel, and you know, all the way through Philae Temple, and you guys have been there, but also Kamambo and all these places. And I started realizing that each of these temples were situated, because I thought it was so strange that each of them was another temple to Osiris. Every one of them is Osiris. So what's the deal with Osiris, right? Why does it have to be so prolific across, you know, this same story, this hero's journey story across all of Egypt? And then why the locations of the temples where they are? And then I realized that each of the placements were along a 12 note. So we also have 12 chakras in addition to our 7, right? So we have another 5, and then that gets expanded even to 24, right? As we go through higher awakening processes, we start to open up all the other chakras throughout our whole body and frame. And And so you might have seen about 2 months ago, I put a post out on Instagram talking about a 24 note quarter tone scale and how that was actually 432 and 528 in combination, because I realized that in precise temperament tuning, 528 is another scale that's just an extension of 432 scale.
Right.
Right. So 432, if you looked at it in 24 notes, which would be, basically a quarter tone scale. So instead of a half tone or semitone scale that we currently all use today, you would have a quarter tone scale. And then I realized that if you did a quarter tone scale, again, just like the chakras expanding from 7 to 12 to 24, right?
Yeah.
The same type thing happening here. And of course, this also relates to Horus, 7 days in a week and 24 hours in a day, which are all musical notes. Then I looked to see if 528 was actually one of the notes in this quarter tone scale of 432 as its basis. It's actually 432.081216. And it's perfect. So 528, the reason I even had the idea about 528 was because looking at the Giza Plateau, if you look at the ratio of take the Great Pyramid from an aerial view, the northeast corner, and then draw a triangle on Google Earth all the way to the southwest corner of Menkaure, it creates a gigantic rectangular shape, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that rectangular shape happens to be a ratio of 528 over 432. So you've literally got two snakes that intertwine in the exact middle of each other.
Wow.
Right? Like a Kundalini. And I'm sure you saw Jason's latest podcast that he did with the doctor who was talking about, and I thought it was excellent. And I've spent, 30 years in healthcare. And the doctor talking about how it wasn't bats, but it was actually two snakes that led to the coronavirus, which I find fascinating, because even though there were clearly like negative forces at work, it reminded me of sort of Greek tragedies and Greek mythology stories, where in the story of Hercules and his 12 labors, Hera kept trying to thwart Hercules from succeeding. And by her own actions, she was actually inadvertently making him successful as a consequence of those actions. So it's almost like you've got the coronavirus that clearly had some negative aspects associated with it and ill intention. But through that ill intention, we're all getting a crown chakra upgrade. From
all
two snakes.
awakening from that period of time. We all activated.
Yes, that's exactly what happened. And it was in 2020 when our vision became clear. So when you think about this, I started noticing that, wait, every one of the temples along the Nile were actually chakras and musical notes. And I figured out the musical note process. Then I thought, well, why is it though that the pyramids show up at the very, northern part of the Nile, which would be Lower Egypt? So Upper Egypt is from an elevation perspective, right? Because the Nile comes down from the mountains that then basically, it pushes all the water into the Mediterranean, right?
Yeah.
And so I looked at this and I was like, okay, so why is it the pyramids exist really up in this northern part of Egypt and the Nile? And what I realized was that that whole section is the throat chakra, and pyramids and isosceles triangles are the very best way to represent musical intervals.
Yeah.
So why musical intervals? Well, so I've talked to you guys about this before, but 5/4 is the ratio of Menkaure pyramid. 4/3 is the ratio of the height over 1/2 the base of Khafre pyramid. That's why Menkaure has a 51.34 degree slope angle. That's why Khafre, the middle pyramid, has a 53.13 degree slope angle, right? And so they're perfect. So what's that all about? What that's about actually is that you could look at this as musical intervals. 5/4 is exactly the musical interval that we associate with romantic love. And that's the major third. It's just in music, if I had a piano keyboard here, it'd be like C and E. Da, da. And then the next thing you'd want to hear is da, 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 da. That would be that full octave, right? So what you've got with the major third is da, da. And then Khafre pyramid actually has a 4/3, which is the perfect fourth, whose inverse is the perfect fifth. That same da, da, da. So literally it's like music, like we're watching Close Encounters, right? Something is being told to us here. And what I realized that the best way to depict it all and this understanding of these musical ratios is through pyramids. It would be lasting through millennia. And that as people study the pyramids, they would start to awaken and remember who they are and why they're here. It's no different than the film, the television show that's on Apple Plus, which is called Foundations. And in the story, a mathematician from many thousands of years ago in a galaxy far, far away sees forward like an astrologer would, but he was a mathematician and he knew and predicted then that there was going to be a huge shift in consciousness towards a lower level of consciousness. So they were going into what we would perceive as an iron age rather than a golden age. They'd left the golden age, they're going in the iron age. A lot of us feel like there's some of that stuff going on right now, right? Because it's going both directions. You can't have it only go one direction. As you move into golden age, as you move into higher states of awareness, there must also be an accompaniment of lower states of awareness happening at the same time. Because every action must have an equal opposite reaction. But what's different in this age is just like Hera trying to thwart the activities and success of Hercules, her negative actions actually create the higher consciousness. This is kind of a different way of, it's like, it's not their intention, but it's almost like, you know, the Wile E. Coyote and the Elmer Fudd trying to get the rabbit or whatever. Like they never actually succeed with their negative activity because the destiny has already been set. And if it were the other way around and we were in the wrong period of time, the opposite would also be true, right? So basically what I realized was that if I took a pyramid and I looked at it, and I'll just draw this out for you real quick. If I drew a pyramid and showed just as a representation to you, and I wanted to show the world that I understood some higher knowledge about musical interval and ratio, I could take this simple triangle pyramid shape, right? And I could take the height over 1/2 the base. So the height, and this is 1/2 the base. So height and 1/2 the base is going to give me one musical interval, right? So in the case I told you from Minkari, it's a major third. But if I take the full base and now I divide that by the height, that gives me its inverse. So it's a simplistic, beautiful thing. So it's inverse for the height of 5 and the 1/2 base is 4. That'd be Minkari pyramid, right? If I took 8 and that 5/4 ratio is a Pythagorean major third interval. And then if I took 8, which would be 4 and 4 right here, and divide it by 5, then that equals a minor, it's inverse, it's a shift in polarity, minor 6th. So the pyramids represent both directions. Now, interestingly, when we hear a major third note, we hear that da, da, everyone loves it. But when you hear the same exact notes, just 1 octave higher for the C note, and you start with the E instead of starting with the C, guess what everyone says they feel like? Heartbreak. Heartbreak. So when we look at the pyramid, we can see in this architectural form the beauty of romantic love, but its inverse is simply looking at it from a different perspective, and it's heartbreak. So in the experience of romantic love in a dualistic world is the seed of heartbreak.
Which is the opposite of love. So there's always an opposite in duality.
There's always an opposite in duality. It must always be experienced. And so what we do is we tend to turn off one perspective if we're optimistically inclined versus turning on the other perspective if we were pessimistically inclined. It's like what happens to you is not actually what happens to you in life. It's what you believe happened to you.
Yeah, I love that bit. I really like that. Like at that point, everything's basically neutral, and it depends on how much work you've done within yourself as to whether you respond to that neutrality in a positive or a negative way. I always love your story about how some terrible stuff happened, you know, to do with work in your future. And on that day, you actually said, I think this is actually the best day of my life, not the worst. And sure enough, it turned out to be that way.
Yeah, it's really what you decide to experience is what you actually do decide. And what you experience, therefore. It's interesting because I looked at this for the Great Pyramid. So I had Menkaure at 5/4. I had Khafre at 4/3. And then there was one missing. The 3/2 was missing. Where's 3/2? Because the Great Pyramid is 2/1 pi, which is the same as 2/1 because pi is the circumference of a circle with a diameter of 1. So what's up with that? Where's the 3/2? So I thought maybe there's a 3/2 pyramid. Then I thought maybe it's the 3/2 that's the inverse of the perfect fourth of the 4/3, because I could say, well, the inverse of 4/3 would be basically, 4 or 6/4. So 6/4, you double the 3, the short side, and then you have put that on top of it and you find its inverse, but the inverse then becomes the perfect fifth from the perfect fourth. And so I thought maybe that's where it is, because 6/4 is the same as 3/2. You just divide it by 2 to reduce it down. And then I also thought, well, Menkaure gives us the perfect square, because if I take 1/2 of its base and make it into a square, it gives me a perimeter that's equal to its area, which no other circle or square combo can do this, right? Only a square with a side length of 4 can have the same area as its perimeter, which would be 16, right? So 4 times 4 sides equals 16, and 4 squared is also 16. So that's a unique characteristic. Then I looked at the Khafre pyramid. I said, well, what's the perfect circle? The perfect circle has a radius of 2. So it also would have 4 pi as its circumference, and its area is also 4 pi. So then I thought, we have the perfect square, we have the perfect circle, and the Great Pyramid is the squaring of the circle, because the half base square of the Great Pyramid comes out to be the exact same length as the circle that connects the top of the pyramid to the base of the pyramid. So you just put a circle from the ground all the way up to the top and back around again. That would have the exact same value for the Great Pyramid, and only the Great Pyramid, as the perimeter. So the circumference equals the perimeter. So that's about balancing masculine and feminine energy.
So they all fit inside each other, and it's all
they all fit inside each other. It's all beautiful.
Yeah.
But then I thought, but where is the perfect triangle then? Because the Tao has the symbology of the triangle, the square, and the circle, right? So where's the triangle? Where's the square? Where's the circle? So we know where the square and the circle is, and we know where the squaring of the circle is, but we're missing a 3/2 pyramid, and we're missing also a 6/5 pyramid. 6/5 would be the pyramid that is the one I just showed you the picture of. Right. So which is very steep, and it's the same as the one on the dollar bill.
Right.
Yeah, gotcha.
On the dollar bill. Where is that located, Robert?
So we found them.
Yeah.
And these two pyramids sit in a place called Abu Rawash. They've been known for a while, but they are exploded, and they're often referred to as the Great Pit. So they sit about 300 feet higher on elevation wise versus the Great Pyramid. So when you stand on this, you look down on the Great Pyramid from there, and you have to have special permission to go there. You can't just go there, right? That's the other thing.
So where on the Kundalini line on the map, you know how you drew the map through the Nile, which represents the Kundalini. So where are these pyramids on the map? Is it in the crown chakra or?
Yes. So I'll show you just in a second. Let me pull it up for you.
Very interesting that you say they exploded from the inside out, especially when people talk about theories that there could be some sort of power generators. If you're talking about a structure that would have been larger than the Great Pyramid, the sort of explosion, when you look at, how they tried to blast their way through it to find tunnels in the early days, and the explosives were all but ineffective to blow something like that up. I mean, we're talking tremendous amounts of power.
Oh, I love this.
So basically these are, and it's also matching the constellations.
Yeah.
And so you've got the Giza Plateau, which is at the throat chakra, which is also sort of controlled by Taurus. And it's also why Orion is everything there, because Orion and Taurus in the night sky, you'll notice that Orion looks as though he is fighting with the bull, right? Which really just represents his own personality as well. The bull he's fighting with has a lot of symbology associated with it, but it's really his ego. And so basically Orion is in the Taurus constellation predominantly. And then you've got the three pyramids, which are aware, actualize, and transcend. And the most holy of these is actually due to its geometry and also its structure being made out of granite. The other two pyramids are made of limestone.
Yeah.
Menkaure is made out of granite. Well, there are two other pyramids that are 8 kilometers exactly northeast of the Great Pyramid. And these two other pyramids happen to be the square root of 3 over 2 as its proportion. So there's your 3 over 2. And the other one happens to be 6 over 5. So now we have 6 over 5, 5 over 4, 4 over 3, 3 over 2, and 2 over 1.
So we got the pyramids representing the musical notes going up in a perfect scale, tying in with the chakras, the energy systems, and as if the land is a representation of the physical vessel, or vice versa, whichever came first or one after the other.
Absolutely.
Everything interrelated.
Everything is interrelated. That is absolutely true. And it's you can really see it well when you look at it in this way. Here, I'll show you.
It's almost like the discoveries are coming as our consciousness is ready, and it's a perfect alignment. Like when we were in Egypt, Robert, the throat chakra was announced. The chamber in the Great Pyramid. And I feel
and they're about to make another big announcement too, because I was told, just like I was back then as well, that they would make an announcement, and we were there when it happened. And I was also told, there's going to be another big announcement coming very soon. And it actually, again, supports exactly the Da Vinci map of the Vitruvian Man. And the discoveries are coming in very, very fast. It's like a loop. As you go to higher consciousness, you can see more. And as you see more and take more in, then that accelerates your consciousness even more.
And you're given more intelligence once you hold the energy with high regard, right?
Yes. And I don't know if you saw the one video that was done by Dolores Cannon, where she basically says, this is like, she died 10 years ago. And she said, at the right time, someone with the signs have to match, is what she said. There were hidden things in the walls of the pyramids that nobody would notice and nobody would see until the right signature match was there. And that once that was there, then things would be seen and then be used for our day.
Yes.
You would have loved
so people
hearing
sent
that.
me that. They sent me all of that.
You would have been like, yes, that's what we're doing. That would have been great to hear that, hey?
That beautiful Arcturian image that you pointed out to us on the wall of the Great Pyramid, that one particularly just gave me chills when we were looking at that together. There was a couple of times. There was that, and then there was when we chanted that tone together in that small chamber that just reverberates through you. And as you were describing, it was almost like that frequency was preparing us for then going into that chamber to be able to almost see more, as you were saying in that point from Dolores. It's like when you're at that vibration, you see more. And it was true. We saw a lot more. Do you feel like that's this Arcturian connection? That species always tied in or talked about being all about universal knowledge and wisdom, and all these interconnections that you're talking about, they just seem so deep, so profound. Do you feel like there's a lot of Arcturian link there?
I do. I do. And I think that's basically part of our just general destiny. And, you know, the path that we chose, as it were. And, you know, I think that the Arcturian link is an important aspect of it. They've certainly played an important role in this. I feel as though the movie has already been made. We're just watching it in reverse. That's how it feels. I feel like we're watching it unfold in reverse. Like there was a strange movie that was like this called Memento that came out around 2001 or something like that. And the whole movie was shot in reverse and it was confusing, very, very confusing film. But I watched it like 5 times because I was like, I've got to understand this. I felt the same way when I watched Inception or when I watched Tenet, right? And I was like, I got to watch this because I got to basically grok this all the way. And it was very, very confusing because of the way it was done. But I think that's what we're kind of dealing with here, which is, you know, kind of remarkable in and of itself. And, you know, it's exciting to see so much of this stuff happening right now. You know, so for example, I was in the Great Pyramid, and what I noticed that was different this time as well is that normally when you go in that small chamber, like we were in, and you resonate the chamber, you have that wah loud resonance, right? It's like shakes you to your core. And, you know, when I went there in 2022 and I spent the night in the pyramid by myself, I had this very interesting situation where I recorded a prayer that I gave about the global activation of the throat chakra. And I even astral traveled into the throat chakra chamber, which is above the king's chamber. And I knew it could be accessed through a new corridor that they found, you know, while we were there earlier this year. And then this other corridor that would lead from that point to the throat chakra chamber. And that other corridor would be a replication, almost a copy, but a little bit smaller than the Grand Gallery. And I called it the Magnum Opus Gallery, if you remember. I said, there's another gallery that's on top of this that I believe is called the Magnum Opus Gallery. You will see very soon that is going to be proven.
Oh,
right.
Did you get to see it?
Absolutely
Trip
proven.
to Egypt?
I didn't personally get to see it, but I know it's being proven. Right, which is really interesting because it's exactly where I said it would be, in exactly the same way, and I definitely have it on very, very good authority that that is going to be happening very soon, and also that there is a map that the Egyptian authorities are working with that may have come out of Europe, which is also fascinating. So they know what they're looking for with the Scan Pyramid project. So I'll just leave it at that. But this trip was very different because on this trip, I noticed that my voice was differently resonating the chamber. So it wasn't just in the sarcophagus, because I noticed that, of course, I could always find the right note. I would go, and then if I sing the exact right note of 117 hertz, then the chamber goes wah, you know, just like when we were standing in the antechamber, or like when you're laying in the sarcophagus and I was buzzing everybody by finding that right note. Well, what I realized in 22 on April 23rd, which was the holiest night of the year, and I happened to be there by myself. I was supposed to be with the CEO of Gaia, who's a good friend of mine, and we were going to go together, and he couldn't make it the last minute. So I ended up going in the pyramid by myself. And I recorded me giving a prayer in there in 2022. And I noticed when I listened to the recording later that every word I was saying was resonating the chamber differently. And it was resonating the actual sarcophagus differently. And this time it was like 3 times stronger. So something has shifted. And I'll play some of the video for you, or some of the recording for you as well.
I feel like, Robert, it's certain beings are instrumental keys to activate chords within these structures. So
yes.
I really feel like because humanity as a collective is elevating, your elevation as well, and that inner work that we've all been doing individually is clearing and shifting, the density's dropping, and now the vibration that you're projecting out is a different frequency. So it's another level of a key to open gateways within these structures.
Oh, no doubt about it. There's no doubt about it. So very interesting, that term too, that people refer to as the soul song, and that our soul song is represented through our 7 energy centers. And the more clear we are within, the more we've done the inner work and balanced our chakras, the more our soul song sings or resonates at a perfect pitch. And that manifests in a person's life as them being bright, and they have a lot of vitality, a lot of clarity, and they're magnetically attracted to people, and people are attracted to them because of the purity of the soul song, and all linking it back to how clear and sharp those frequencies are. So this is going to be great to hear.
Yeah. So have a listen to this.
Here we go.
Mankind is ready to transcend. We are ready to enter the galactic community because we know that love is the answer.
So
those words,
yeah.
chose.
Here, listen again.
From this place to all the cosmos, that all within the reaches of the galactic disk and center, the black hole that is at the center of the great geometry, will resonate back to us, and will know that mankind is ready. Mankind is ready to transcend. We are ready to enter the galactic community because we know that love is the answer.
Love it. So did you receive any galactic visitors or walk through any portals while you went through that experience?
You know, when I did it in 2022, I had a visitation from the angel Metatron, and it was very powerful and huge, and he had 6 wings that were on fire, and I was just stunned. I was totally stunned. That was the night. That was April 23rd. It was the day of St. George the Dragon, or the day of St. George defeating the dragons. It was the day of Orthodox Easter in Cairo. So the pyramid was actually closed. It was during Ramadan, and it was Shakespeare's birthday, all on the same day. And it was also a permutation of 432, which was it was pretty epic experience. But on this last trip, no, we didn't have, I didn't have any specific visitations, but I felt like there were like choruses with us the whole time. And what's also interesting is that if you listen to that recording I just played for you, you could hear the wah, 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 wah. And as soon as I stop talking, after a few seconds, it stops and it's silent. And
because I was wondering, how are you doing both, like talking and that harmonic in the background?
That wasn't me. That was just the chamber.
Yeah, good.
That was just the resonance of the chamber. That wasn't me. I was just recording with my iPhone. And I didn't even notice how much it was resonating, right? Because I'm laying in there. So I was just talking. But it didn't only happen inside the King's chamber this time. It happened also in the subterranean chamber. And so I had a lot of new discoveries on this trip. There were a lot of new things that were seen, that we saw, that was pretty incredible. And I can share some of those things with you. The subterranean has a crawl shaft that's 56 feet long and ends in a wall. And I'd never noticed this before. I spent many, many, many hours inside that crawl shaft, which is kind of a scary place. It's super dark. But I had on my my headlamp this time. Yeah. And it's like 2 feet by 2 feet crawl space. Have you guys been in there?
Is that the Queen's chamber?
No, it's in the subterranean.
Oh, no, we didn't go down there. No, not this time.
You didn't go down. Okay.
No.
So in the subterranean, and this is the part of the pyramid that's been there and predates the pyramid, right? It's the well, and it's got this grotto that goes deep into the ground, like about 30 feet. And it's about 120 feet underneath the pyramid. It's pretty deep, right? Wow, underneath the pyramid. So and it's about a 300-foot long, about 100 meters long journey down there, right? So you got to go down there, and it's different. It's totally different. And there's this one crawl space that's this famous passage that ends in a wall. So it's 56 feet long. It's all limestone, but has now transmuted to quartz crystal. So there's quartz crystal. So imagine climbing over jagged quartz crystal, because it's growing all the time, right?
Right.
Jagged quartz crystal that's like cutting into your knees and everything. It's kind of painful.
Mm.
And then going into this crawl space and getting to the very end and staying in there for hours. Sometimes I've stayed 4 hours inside that thing, right? And it's very scary. In Drunvalo Maki's book, he says, if you go in there, don't bring any fear with you. So it's about learning to conquer your fear.
Which is root chakra, right?
Which is root chakra, right? And so that's where we are. We're right at the root chakra. And so here I was, inside there, and I started to say a prayer as well. And even that chamber starts resonating like the one I just played for you. And I was like, wait a minute. So something has shifted, because this hasn't happened before. Everywhere I was going inside the pyramid was starting to resonate differently.
So it's like activation.
But the collective consciousness has purged over the last couple of years fear, which is root chakra. So the Kundalini energy is rising. It's freer to voice itself now. There's more capacity in these energy centers.
And I think that's right. I think that's a big part of it for sure. And, but I can basically show you, what we found inside the Great Pyramid on this trip, and inside all three of the pyramids, which is pretty exciting.
Perhaps the pyramid almost amplifies what's in the person then as well. Like you were saying, don't go down to that root chakra chamber if you've got fear within. But if you're wanting to, let's say, know thyself better, spend some time down there, and it's going to like show you what's still in there if you haven't worked on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really true. It's really true. So this is, if you go inside that wall, right, we found at the back of the chamber, there's actually a face.
Uh-huh.
And you can see it right here. I've never seen this before. There's a face on the back wall of the crawl space. And you can see one eye right here. You see this eye with a pupil?
It almost looks like an ibis head too, with the nose.
Yeah, it's got a strange nose. And then another eye right here with another iris right here, and a pupil, and the eyebrows going both sides, and then the nose with the nostrils here, and then this mouth that looks like this. That kind of freaked me out. I'll be honest. I was like, what the heck? There's a face on the back wall. And this is a famous place where, again, you're not supposed to bring any of your fears. And how I missed this before, I have no idea.
So Thoth talks about in the Emerald Tablets, the key and walking through doorways with the energetic signature. So what we were talking about before was, your frequency changing, being activated, more intelligence coming down. Is there anywhere in the pyramid that you feel like this gateway, or is it a metaphoric kind of line in the Emerald Tablets? Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, absolutely. And I've tried all the stuff that was in the Emerald Tablets. Try to get that wall to come down, right?
Yeah.
And
like Indiana Jones, you're pushing.
I mean, am
I ready yet? Open sesame.
There's not like a TV in there and stuff to do, right? So if I'm going to spend 4 hours in there, I better have like something to do.
Right.
And so I obviously have tried all of the words that were in the Emerald Tablets, and more than once, right? But it's some combination. It talks about the secret of 7, as well, right?
That's 7 beings, you feel?
7. Well, no, there was something about the secret of 7 in general, and I think that secret of 7, leads to the 24 note scale, some knowledge of 7, which also relates back to time itself. And there's so much symbology in the number of notes. The number of white keys on a piano keyboard in 1 octave is 7, right? So I think it's all musical. Everything in the northern part of Egypt appears to be tied to these pyramid shapes. Now, the only other place where there are pyramids like this is way far south, deep, like down on the border of Sudan, and a place called Bir Tawil, which is an unclaimed land. It's never been claimed by anyone. Like the Egyptians don't claim it. The Sudanese don't claim it. It was a holdover legacy of colonialization. And then nobody ended up with that land because of a border dispute. And that land has on its borders the same style pyramids that exist you know, in their form at the northern part of Egypt on Abu Rawash, which I'll show you in a moment. But basically, it's that same exact shape. There's a few doorways into the Valley of the Kings where you can find some of that pyramid as well. And this is what it looks like. So this is, you might remember, from the Valley of the Kings.
Right.
And this is one of the doorways in, but it was not really a pyramid. It's more like just a, you know, like a portal.
It's kind of this, is it the same angle as that triangle that's going?
It is. That's exactly the same.
Circle? Yeah.
Yep, that's exactly the same. Exactly right. So,
yeah,
you know, it's kind of very interesting that, you know, it exists like that. And the other place that it exists like that is really on the Sudanese border and nowhere else. And so what it tells you is there's a connection between the crown chakra and the root, the below the root, or the earth chakra, right? So beneath us, we also have a chakra, you know, that's basically carrying around in our etheric around with us, and it's roots down into the earth from where we stand. And so there's a connection between all of these chakras. So for example, the throat chakra connects to the sex chakra, the sacral, right? And a new chakra that's there, because now you have to consider we have 24, and the new chakra that's there is what I've been referring to as the vermilion. It's sort of a mauve, you know, pinkish cinnabar, you know, it's like a cinnabar color.
Right.
And that's like a whole nother aspect to the Kundalini awakening. It's a critical aspect. You have to open that part of the sex chakra first before you can open fully the throat chakra.
So how do you do that, Robert?
So well, no, there's a whole aspect of that is powerful for sure. And but before I go into that, let me show you some of the other stuff here that I got. You guys will be the first to see this.
Okay.
And it's interesting, Robert, people like joke about sounds during sex, but those sounds during a true intimate connection are actually helping to facilitate the movement of energy of the Kundalini up the spine to lead to that, let's call it ecstatic moment, you know, that moment of, let's call it the bliss state, right?
Unless it's fake, of course. I'm just saying. Hopefully it's not fake like everything else in the world today.
I think,
but
you know, I think it's, you know.
Yeah, you know.
Like you've got to have done some healing to, you know, really know, I feel.
To belt it out. Well, yes, and actually it's interesting.
You're not going to be real if you're getting videoed and it's getting put onto different sites, right? So that's not the real. It's that private, sacred, intimate exchange. But like everything, when done with that purity, is powerful.
Yeah,
absolutely. We'll go back into that. Yeah.
So you might remember in the Queen's Chamber, we discovered. You know, I showed you guys this man that's on the wall where you can even see his vertebrae and everything. He's facing north. And so this is what it looks like. There's a bit of plaster covering his eye as well. And then this is his nose. And then the mouth. And then even inside the mouth, it looks like an X-ray that you could see of a molar right here. You see that?
Yeah.
Looks like a molar tooth, doesn't it?
And his nose, you can really see that side angle, can't you?
Yeah, and you can see his teeth and everything. It's like an X-ray. How did they do this? Then you can see the vertebrae as well. And this is something that you know, I discovered in 2022 is also. But this time I noticed something different. I started to notice that it looked like there was some air in his mouth that he was sucking in. Right. And then you could see something blowing out of his mouth, and it looked like almost one of those voice bubbles, right? When there's like a cartoon.
Yes, yeah, I know.
And it looks like this right here. And I noticed some writing on the wall, which looked like an alpha.
Oh, wow.
Omega, mu.
Wow.
Right now, I believe fundamentally, and there's writing all over this. You could see there's writing all over it. Right. But I believe that what we think of as the Greek language is actually much of it is loan language and holdover from Atlantean.
Yeah.
And that's why there's Alpha Omega on the rim of the sarcophagus, right? And by the way, the Alpha Omega
spotting, that's hard to spot. There's a lot in there though. There's all little other symbols you can see.
Yes, there are.
In then.
And what does AUM sound like but Om?
Yeah.
So this is really interesting because the pyramid is all about the throat chakra, right? And this is on the east wall of the Queen's chamber, the primordial sound. And I find this really interesting because the Queen's chamber also has this inlet right here of these gables that basically come inward. So you can tell it's for sound, right? There's something about how to direct the sound energy.
Yeah, we went and sat in the Queen's chamber on the way out of the visit. And it didn't really feel like a Queen's chamber. It was like a dungeon. It didn't feel like a elegant Queen's room, but it was under construction at the time. Yeah.
This was also totally new. This is on the other side of that, inlet that's inside here. That's all in 5 proportion on the wall. And you can see what looks like a chin and a face and a hairline right here, and then an eye, and then the other eye seems to be covered somewhat, and then you've got an open mouth. And remember, these are etched into the wall. It's not painted. These are etched, very lightly etched, and I believe the etching was done by monks that would do it with their thoughts. I see monks sitting around in lotus pose, meditating to create all of this 5-dimensional artwork on all the walls. And when I go into the pyramid, I don't see it as these drab, dark walls. I see it as in vibrant colors and full of designs. And full of petroglyphs.
With the vibration. So they're trying to tell us as vibration through creation and sound to create form.
Yes, exactly. So can you guys see this right here?
Yeah. It's good. That was very good discovery. Like it's a tricky one, that one.
So on my, this was in the Menkaure pyramid. And I don't know if you were with me the night that this was discovered or not.
We were in the other group. Yeah.
You were in the other group. So yeah. I discovered that on the south wall of the Menkaure pyramid is a tree that looks like a tree of life. So it's got a broad sort of trunk right here.
Yes.
And then on top of that tree, and you can see the leaves hanging down all around, on top of that trunk, you can see the form of a staff of Hermes. That is actually in the form of a sword. So there's a sword coming down right here. And then the hilt of the sword goes all the way to the ceiling. And then 2 snakes wrapped around it. One of them is black and the other one is white. And this is the tip of the sword right here where the hand thing I've got is. Yeah. And the top of the sword goes to the ceiling and it's over a tree. Now this matches the symbology also that is in the story from the Genesis story, which is that, when God cast Adam and Eve out of the Garden of Eden, he placed cherubim and a flaming sword in front of the tree of life to guard its way, right? In the Garden of Eden. Now, what's also interesting, I noticed something else going on down here that looked kind of funny because I could see something like an eye right here, and it looked like some sort of serpent head. You see this eye, and his mouth is right here with like sharp teeth, and then something also on the left side and something on the right. And so I was like, this is really fascinating because what is this actually pointing us to? And what it actually shows up as.
Oh, you've colored it. How good's this? This looks good. Oh, the 3 heads.
Yes, the 3 heads. So you see this, it looks like this black head right here. It's right here. There's the eye of it. There's the other eye. Here's the mouth of the other one with sharp teeth coming down, right on the right side here. And its eye right here. It looks just like this. And then the other one to the right of it. Now, what is this story actually related to? This is actually a story that is, I thought it was probably Garden of Eden, and it might actually be somehow related to that. But now I realize that this is the symbology associated with the story of the Epic of Gilgamesh. So this is the hydra that you cut off its head and more heads grow back.
Oh, yeah.
And that is a metaphor for judgment. Whenever you make a judgment, on something, you think you're cutting its head off, right? Let's say you don't like how somebody does something, and so you make a negative judgment against that person. As you move into higher states of awareness, the moment you make a judgment about something that you don't like, the more you will get a reflection back of that same experience over and over and over again. It's like a hydra. The head keeps growing back. Well, in the story of the Epic of Gilgamesh, he had his friend Enkidu, and this is also, I think it's labor 2 in the 12 labors of Hercules. So the Epic of Gilgamesh is closely related to the same stories that were in the labors of Hercules. And what happened was Enkidu, the friend of Gilgamesh, who was this king, also representing Orion in an incarnated form, right here on Earth, basically was trying to fight the hydra, and the only way that he could kill the hydra, because the heads kept growing back, is to have his friend cauterize each of the heads after he cut off the head. So he cauterized the neck with a flaming sword. So this is really interesting stuff, because this is totally new. Nobody's seen this before. And this is all inside the Menkaure pyramid.
And it sits on the ground at the tree trunk. So, never going to higher states of consciousness and elevation if you're giving judgment. So it's the positioning even, right?
Exactly right. So then this takes me to another one, which is, let's see, I'm having a hard time seeing it here. Give me 1 second.
And would the 3 snakes also relate to the Alpha Omega? The 3, the Alpha and Omega?
That's a good question. I don't know, but I'll show you some other stuff that might lead us to the answer to that question.
Like the AU, that you found in the Queen's Chamber.
Correct.
Yeah.
So I found it in the King's Chamber.
Oh, the King's
Chamber, but then also we found it in Khafre Pyramid as well, and we also found it now in the bench on the back wall of the Menkaure Pyramid, and I'll show you that in just a moment. It is the south. That's the west wall of the Menkaure Pyramid King's Chamber, and what you'll notice is something really interesting here. This looks like a horizon. You see this horizon?
Yeah.
This looks like a tree with branches coming out from it. And then the tree is pretty large. You can kind of see the leaves, and the whole room is full of trees. So, that obviously was something that we immediately pointed to. But then I noticed something else. It looked like there was a cat's eyes overlaid on top of it. Do you see the cat right here, the eyes? Yeah. I'm basically tracing the eyes, right, with the with my cursor here.
Yeah.
Another eye right here, and they've got slits in them. And then you got the nose, and on top of the bridge of the nose looks like a circle with a cross in it, which looks like a Templar cross as well, which that same Templar cross was around all the way in the oldest of old Babylonian, stone reliefs. So there's something to this, and this tree, right, you could kind of see it here, can then be depicted and seen as this.
Oh.
You see it?
Yeah.
So I wonder if you put that on top of the map of Egypt and the Kundalini, and if that horizon, where was the equator? It's much down more south, isn't it? The equator.
Yeah, quite a bit more south. It's all the way down to, I wouldn't say close to Congo. But yeah, so there's definitely something here, right? And I called this the tree of knowledge because it matched the description, and also it was tempting eyes on top of it. Right. And feline, which is often associated with the feminine aspects.
Yeah. When I was in this pyramid, I got that it was like the generator, like that. So you're saying knowledge, the wisdom, it feels like it's once everything's in harmony, then it will start like the clogs on the clock turning, like it'll start giving information out.
Yep. Totally.
And the cat is reflecting in Lyra. So Lyra was one of the first, Lyran beings was one of the first incarnated creations potentially in this Milky Way galaxy. So the cat feline, the intelligence of that energy coming through.
Yep. Now this, to me, this was on a sarcophagus in the Serapeum, on the lid. It's adjacent to the main entrance in the Serapeum in Saqqara. And this looked a lot like E.T. from the movie in the 80s, which was very bizarre.
The
right?
crazy hair.
I see what you mean.
Here's the nose. Here's the mouth. Here are the two eyes off to the side. And it has like a crown on it as well. It doesn't look terribly dissimilar from that, that thing that people thought was a disclosure in Mexico recently at their Congress. But, who knows if that was fake or not. There's been a lot of conflicting reports on that. But but this is definitely carved into, etched into the side of the sarcophagus. There.
Do you want to show the Arcturian head that we found you found in the king's chamber?
Yeah, let me see if I can find it for you real quick.
That's a really good one.
That's a good one. Yeah.
It's very much the classic ET face too. And then if what you're talking about is these visions of monks meditating and tuning in, and then that image that they're seeing then being etched into the wall, then it gives you perhaps some indication as to what they might have been tuning into in that chamber, because it's one of the more dominant. I mean, there's so much, isn't there, on that? There's the spirals of the DNA. There's those huge wings.
Oh, yeah.
I love looking at all of that.
Yeah. So this is, I mean, I have a few photos that I can show you of that as well. Yeah, there's like birds on the walls as well, which I can show you. I mean, I think I showed you some of these in the last one we did. I'm trying to find a good one of the King's Chamber, though, of that back wall of the King's Chamber, so that you can see what we're talking about here. I have a good one right here. Here it is. Here it is. Like this. Okay. So you can see the eyebrows of something with a very large eye right here.
Yep. And it's almond shaped.
Circle right here, almond shaped. There's a circle of its iris, and then the other side, same thing. And the face curves down like this to its mouth, which is right here. I'm not sure if this is Arcturian or what it is, but it doesn't look what we would consider to be from Earth.
The eyes are so large.
Yeah, the eyes are very large, and even the Egyptologists that see this are like freaked out all the time.
You have the pen. So you don't have a pen outline of it. It would be so interesting to just help those people who couldn't quite see it.
Yeah, here it is. So here's the eye again, another eye.
Yeah, there. That's good.
The mouth, the nose, right, and then there's an eye of Ra right here as well.
Yeah,
eye of Ra that's been left, and remember these walls have been scrubbed down, also. So these are not random things. Even the Egyptologists are now starting to fully recognize this. And somebody queried ChatGPT and one of the, I think it was Cora's AI, and they said, "How is it that Robert's found all these things on the walls?" And now it's funny because the answer's changed a lot, right?
Yeah.
Now it's like, well, maybe he was the first to, probably not the first to see them, but the first to provide an interpretation of what they are. But, it's never been in the literature anywhere. And that maybe I looked at it differently than other people did. But yeah, they're not really denying that they're there now, which is a very big shift, right? Same thing with the bull and the cow, which is, right here. You can see this cow right here with its eye and its horns, and then the Apis bull inside of it with the symbol of Orion on its chest. So this is actually the same proportions. You can see two triangles that are basically merging into each other. And it looks very similar to my logo too.
Your logo.
Yeah.
It's just all linked. It's so good. We love synchronicity. It's just like the way of the universe talking to us, showing us we're on the path,
Yeah, so absolutely right.
As you find more and more things, Robert, and like for you, your throat chakra starts to expand more, open more. Have you found, like with your relationship with yourself, that this is becoming more and more about all you want to talk about and be around, and you know, the old conversations have sort of left you now, and you're moving more into truth and what you're passionate about? And like, how have you found this personally affecting you?
Oh, it's had a huge impact on me. You know, the things that I used to be kind of just okay with are now not so okay. Right. So, you know, a good example of that would be my relationships have either had to deepen or diminish.
Mm.
Yes.
Right. So that's probably the best way I can describe it. They have to go to a deeper level of intimacy, or the superficial is now no longer kind of acceptable.
Yeah.
Here's the Alpha Omega on the rim of the sarcophagus that no one had seen. Right. And it's clearly there. It looks like there's something up here as well.
We saw it. It's so good.
It, ran our fingers through it. It's like there. You know?
And, you know, it was pretty remarkable when I saw that the first time, because the reason I saw it is because I remembered it being there.
Yeah. So
this
you're just remembering what's already in you, you know, like you're a part of this potentially creation, right? And it's just a remembering the clues that you've left for yourself. We often talk about that. We've left breadcrumbs for ourselves and signs. We just have to have the consciousness to see it.
Right. Right. So these are the phoenix on the right, which is like a black phoenix with its eye right here and its wing coming across, looks just like this. And then a Bennu bird next to it, which is traced in black here. You know, these things now, like I said, they're not really being denied anymore, which is very interesting. There's actually the word Thoth written on the wall also. So there we go here. Let's shrink this down just a little bit. So you could see a Thoth. Now, I believe that, I mean, it's written in like Latinized text. I believe that Da Vinci did this. And there's a 1, 2, 6 also on this wall, which matches as well Da Vinci's Vitruvian Man, which in the upper right-hand corner of the page of Vitruvian Man, which was not a page in a book, is written 1, 2, 6.
Love it.
And that represents the doubling of the octave for humanity. And, you know, all of this is sort of like symbolic and very important to the next stages of humanity, right? That's how I see it. And, you know, I think I showed you guys last time the DNA stuff on the walls. And here it is. You could see this. This is in the King's Chamber. Literally the shape of DNA, and even the nucleotide pairs you could see.
I love
cutting
that.
Across.
Yeah. On the right angle, I could see that flow of it really, really well. I got it. You know, you get it with the light correctly, and you can really feel into that one. And there's so much going on the wall. Like initially you walk in there and it takes you a moment to tune in, and you start seeing the things come alive.
It really does. It does take a minute for you to sort of adjust, and then it does come alive. And this is what it looks like from the side, right? So you could see how it's etched. This is the bull, literally etched into the wall. And all of them are like this. They're all like this light etching into the wall. This is when it was actually discovered.
Yeah, look at
it. Go ahead. Well, we just found something else here in the King's Chamber. And that was before we even noticed that there was a larger cow around it as well.
Yeah, yeah. Love it.
So this upcoming trip for you guys is going to just be expanding even more. It feels as if as you find more and as your frequency shifts, it seems to have a ripple effect for those that are of a similar, you know, frequency. You know, that ripple effect certainly helping the collective consciousness of the planet.
Yes, and what we're going to do on this trip is to activate also this place right here. So this is Abu Rawash, and you can see this you been up here before?
No.
So you had to come. These are the two new pyramids. Yeah, and that's why I say it was
blown
blown out. I really mean it was blown out.
Wow.
It's high, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I see.
This is already the same height as the Great Pyramid, look. Because we're so much higher, right? No one ever goes there, so they're not used to having people.
Right.
That's the Great Pyramid on the left. You know, it's like the distance. Now watch this. This is pretty epic. You know, the red pyramid, the bent pyramid. So you see all those blocks out here?
Yeah.
Those were all originally in that pyramid.
All out there.
Yes.
Whoa.
It literally exploded.
What? How did you think it exploded?
I mean, that's giant granite on the left in front of that truck. Those are rose granite blocks.
How do you think that happened?
Is there any like stories, any myths?
I believe, I can tell you what I believe, and then I'm going to have to cut it short, unfortunately.
Sure.
But I believe that this might have been the original Tower of Babel.
Oh, gosh, you know.
You think it dropped in for you?
I wondered that, but yeah. Goodness.
Yeah, so the reason I feel that is because in the Bible, this place was supposed to, I mean, the original Tower of Babel was built by a guy named Nimrod. And if you look up Nimrod, Nimrod was actually Osiris. That was just the Mesopotamian name for Osiris. And Osiris was Enoch. Enoch and Nimrod was supposed to have been the great grandson of Noah. So he built a tower that was supposed to go high into the sky. It was not a ziggurat. The highest ziggurat was 300 feet high. This would have been 600 feet high.
Yeah.
And if you looked at this thing, it was so steep, it would have looked like you're looking at the Freedom Tower in New York City. I mean, it literally would have been massive and 120 feet higher than the Great Pyramid. Now, this is something that's deserving of, you know, yeah, we're going to reach to God, but I think that was only metaphorical.
Yes. Yeah.
Because what this actually stood for was the representation of the pineal gland and the pituitary gland. The shape of the pituitary gland is an equilateral triangle, and the shape of the pineal gland is this 5, 12, 13 perfect triangle in front of me on the left. And you'll see this in just a moment. And it matches the one on the dollar bill.
So it's actually separate to the Great Pyramid, essentially. It's not the Great Pyramid.
Totally. Yeah, because that's the throat chakra we're looking at in this picture.
Yeah.
And now we're the right distance for the pineal gland and the pituitary. Which together form
so it's in scale, is it, to that distance?
Yes.
Right to the pineal. Oh wow.
Oh wow.
In Egypt, in terms of
on the land. Yes.
Wow.
So, and then this is the other pyramid. And what's also interesting is the number of blocks on the front side of this matches for the first 4 concourses the number of blocks that were on the dollar bill.
Wow. Wow.
For the same pyramid, right? With the exact same. This had a 67.4 degree angle, which is the 5, 12, 13 sharp pyramid triangle I showed you at the very beginning of the call. And the one I'm standing on had a 60-degree angle. That was measured by explorers who came there in 1959, who said that the casing stones that were left showed a 60-degree angle for the pyramid I'm standing on, which, by the way, the name of that pyramid was named the Jed Ephraim Pyramid. Now, why'd they call it Jed Ephraim Pyramid? And you can see a good view of all the blocks down here, right? Look at all that. Okay. The reason they called it the Jed Ephraim Pyramid was because they found what looked like a solar crevice next to it, similar to the one that was next to the Great Pyramid. And they knew that Jed Ephraim, or they believed that Jed Ephraim made that solar boat. And so they thought maybe this is a solar, crevice as well for a solar boat. So they named it Jed Ephraim. I believe it was because the locals always referred to it as the Jed Pyramid, as in the Jed Pillar, as in the crown chakra.
Wow, right.
Because that's what this place is. It is the crown chakra. The two of these pyramids together represent the pineal and the pituitary gland coming into perfect balance, masculine and feminine, sun and moon, male and female, in love, and then enlightening us.
Yeah. And the balance of the masculine, feminine internally in every soul as well. And that's like these rocks is like putting it all back together again, bringing in the parts of us, those rocks having exploded, is an interesting metaphor for what's happened to society today. Everyone's divided and separate and things have blown up.
Well, I didn't get a chance to talk about the Kundalini, sex part stuff that you want to talk about, but I guess it's safe to say it's time to get our rocks on.
Yes, absolutely. And oh, look, we wish you all the best on the upcoming trip too, and the amazing experience that you'll have, and of course, on behalf of the other light workers and people helping the collective, we thank you for your contribution.